Hey, good afternoon, Dave. How are you doing today?
Hey, John, I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Good to hear. Yeah, everybody, welcome to the jump seat today. It's another Friday. It's October 30th, 2020, and this will be another great episode you don't want to miss. This is actually number 28, and for those that haven't joined the jump seat before, it's a weekly spotlight bringing you key industry insights, thought leaders, and subject matter experts affecting both you and your fire department. Yeah, hosted by two jump seat firefighters, myself, John Martins, along with my co-host here, Dave Durstein, and
Hey, hello,
with the
everybody.
yep, and we keep things interesting in the jump seat. Occasional look behind the scenes at 200 plus years of fire service tradition, design, and manufacturing of today's products. And today we're going to focus in on one of those areas in the fire service. So, Dave, let me switch it over to you here for happenings in our fire service. What's new since last week?
Well, there's a lot, but before we even get to what's happening with me, what's happening with you? Because you got a whole new background there. What we got some new digs?
Yeah, got a new video back. No, I'm just kidding. This is actually a real background. We have relocated to same part of Midwest here where I live, but got a new house. So new to us anyway. So got to use the fire. Oh, here it is. The stove here this week, right behind me. It was cold. It was in the 20s and even teens with the wind chill, and so now it's back to warm again. So I'll take it while it's here.
I'll say, unfortunately, us Northerners, that time is starting to diminish where we have this nice heat,
Yes.
and so it's going to be cold before we know it. Actually, crazy enough, I went out for a walk at lunchtime today, and I heard something coming across the cornfield, and at first I thought it was rain, so I picked up the pace and kind of hoofed it back to the house, and it wasn't. It was sleet. So I got back just in time as so
Okay.
the snow is not far behind here in our neck of the woods. But
Right.
the interesting thing is, they use satellite radar to pick up weather patterns and weather pattern changes, snow, rain, things of that nature. But my happening that I wanted to bring up today in the fire service happens to utilize radar in a different limelight. And actually, there was a big fire that happened 2 days ago, about 500,000 square foot fire in Sumter, South Carolina. So you guys, those of you who don't know where Sumter is, it's kind of down on the coast, kind of halfway between Myrtle Beach and Charleston. And so 500,000 square foot warehouse. And it was a massive blaze. And I think if you scroll down a little bit, there's some other pictures of the image there on that site, thanks to firerescue1.com there as well. I mean, it happened in the middle of the night. The top video footage you had was actually from the morning, about 8:30 in the morning. But you can see massive
Yeah.
blaze, massive fire.
Wow.
Well, guess what? This fire was so big; it put off such a massive amount of smoke and heat that it was picked up by the satellites. And so there's some actually really cool satellite footage of the fire on
Yeah.
this one here specifically, and
Wow.
there's even some video you can get from the weather center there. If you can click through on that, I think it's the Twitter feed. Um, it might link you through to Twitter there, John.
Yeah.
Um, but you can actually watch the heat signature and the smoke cloud develop
Yep.
into the atmosphere on some stuff. So, uh, really kind of a unique scenario. Luckily,
Yep.
from what I understand and what I'm hearing, everybody was safe. No firefighters were injured, but obviously a massive fire that those guys had to deal with. And really unique times when you start to pick it up in the satellite and the weather radar stuff. So that's kind of what I had. Just something really
Yeah.
unique and relative to today. How about you? You got anything?
Yeah, no, that's the first time I can recall seeing structural fire incidents creating a Doppler visibility versus wildland. That's one thing. That's normal, but um, quite a fire season just within 2020, right? Just more chaos going on. So
Well,
what an
yeah, I mean, think
extreme
about
fire!
that.
Yeah.
Last week we were talking about Grand Lake, Colorado, and the
Hmm.
big fire there. Speaking of weather, I don't know if you saw that. Then they ended up with like 6 to 8 inches of snow
Hmm.
over the weekend. That helped in knocking that fire back significantly.
Yes.
So if you guys remember, we showed a video last week that was 2:30 in the afternoon, dark
Yep.
as night, red hazy sky. It was really kind of weird. And
Yep.
thank goodness for the weather patterns changing a little bit and help those
Got a
guys
quick
out.
shout out from Dave Woodward. Hey, Dave. Glad you
Hey,
could join us.
Dave.
You were in the jump seat here. Feel like it was in mid-July, a couple weeks before the event that you had been part of there at Revolutionary Lake Tactics Conference there in the Missouri area. So thanks for the shout out, by the way.
It's always great to see you guys tuning in.
Yeah,
Thanks, Dave.
definitely.
Well, hey, John, you know what? We talked about having these industry experts, and we've got a great one today. So how
We
about you
do.
just take us into the jump seat? Let's get right to the meat of the show today.
Excellent. Here we are. Here's our guest. And we've got Jay here, Jay Hillis. Jay Hillis from Snaptite Hose. He's our national sales manager with Snaptite, and he has some great information to talk about today on obviously fire hose. We haven't talked about fire hose, often overlooked, but it shouldn't be, right? It's a package. It's one critical piece of our job, and it's something that we in IDEX Fire and Safety, we don't manufacture a fire hose in this capacity, but it's something that we obviously utilize regularly with our products. So I thought, great time to bring you in, Jay. So thanks for being willing to come in the jump seat and teach us a few things.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm very excited about this.
So Jay, before we dive in, we were talking about snow in our neck of the woods. You being a little bit of a southerner, what's the weather like in good old Savannah, Georgia today?
Well, down in Savannah, it was about 90 degrees yesterday, and we got a little bit of breeze today, but it's still kind of warm. So, the trick-or-treaters will be sweating pretty good, that typical thing.
We'll have to look to come visit you and warm up ourselves. So
come on down. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you.
Well, Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? How long you been with Snaptite? How long you been in the fire service as a whole there?
Right, so I'm retired out of fire service out of Georgia. I did right at 31 years. Started out really young through a junior fire program through Cooler Fire Rescue, which was all volunteer at that time, and kind of rode the tailcoat of my dad that retired as chief training officer for City of Savannah. So I got to see a lot of it, as a kid growing up, and just enjoyed it. And then started as a profession, and was at a airport fire station here in Savannah for a total of 15 years in that system. And so we did a lot of familiar with the aircraft firefighting, those tactics, as well as structural tactics. And then I was chief for a short time for another city department, and then did a lot of just basically just assisting department chiefs with programs for ISO, for water studies, and for just laying out other plans. So huge passion for the industry. I enjoy doing flows. Still get to play with a little bit of fire, so that's really good. So just don't have to always get up in the middle of the night for it. So that's not been missed. So, but I do enjoy the service and have a passion for, getting the right product and creating the right system with the GPMs, from the hail pumps to hose and nozzle, and creating that system to work more proficiently for the fire service, whatever the application may be.
Yeah, that's one of those things that gets misinterpreted in a lot of times, and we'll get to that a little bit more here as we get further in the show. But obviously, great background, and you share a lot of in common with John and myself in the fire experience, and actually, even the multi-generations, being a son of a fire chief myself, that we go well rooted into our backgrounds of where we began in the fire service. Not just us, but
Right.
Snaptite Hose has been around for a year or two. So, I mean, it's a brand that's been around for ages. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of Snaptite and where they've come from?
So Snaptite, was run by the Clark family up in Erie, Pennsylvania. There's two factories, and it's kind of neat that you can see yarn go into the facility and it comes out hose. So it's completely manufactured start to finish in that facility. Wow. And Snaptite's been in business for 51 years now, continuous business. So under that umbrella, we offer national and pond products. And we recently, in the last few years, has brought on a sister company of FireQuip. And they basically, we make a lot of products for them as well. but they're mainly assembly and really good for a quick delivery product where if you get in a bind and, departments just don't have the storage of hose they used to, and hey, I need it in 5 days or whatever, that is a good outlet for us to get it out quickly. But yeah, 51 years of making hose, continuous making hose, and we try to be innovative and honest and manufacturing with you in mind at all times for the fire service.
Excellent. No, that's great information. I know we could talk just like most of these topics. We could 20 and 30 minutes is just, it's never enough to go to the depths that we
Right.
want to go and learn what we could learn, and without doing it in multi-series, which we'll be doing more of on some other stuff coming up, thankfully. But in this short time that we do have, I'd like to hear a little bit about some trends, some of your product lineup, things like that. Where do you want to start with that?
So I'd like to talk about, what we've done as through our products to make them more, we see a lot in the fire service of folks want to go to lower pressure where, we had the Akron selectable gallonage and most folks run that at 100 PSI. Well, any hose will work well for that.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen now is folks are wanting to reduce the nozzle pressure. And so you've got to have a hose that's built up for that. So in our product line, in our catalogs, we outlay that very specifically that if you want a hose that packs well, a hose that's kink resistant, and we don't say kink free, it's not kink free, it's kink resistant. Compared to other models, it's like it's not fireman proof. We know there's nothing out there that's fireman's proof.
That's right.
Jay, you're telling me there's a difference in hose all these years?
That is right. The says hose is hose is not correct. It's wrote a little blog about it's not your father's fire hose. That's on our site. That's they've got a lot of folks thinking about it, but it's really, used to we would run a cotton jacketed hose with a glued in liner or just so it's come a long ways from that. There's not any cotton jacketed hose for the most part, and liners are put in different ways. Still can do a glued in liner, but that's going to be 100 PSI hose, a very economy hose, lower end price. But
here's a quick, I'll put it up here. Here's a quick link to that. I just pulled that up for anybody.
It's a great blog post. Check it out.
Check that out for sure. Jay, keep going.
And so with the low pressure, if you look at hose construction, you want to have a good backbone in the hose because you're less wall pressure, and you're actually flowing more water at less pressure, which kind of throws the whole thing out of sequence. So if you look at the thickness of a wall of a hose, this was like our first model of a true diameter hose. It was just real stiff. It's like a pipe. Didn't pack very well, and you can kind of see the thickness of it there. It's pretty thick hose, pretty built up. So what we have kind of designed, this is a 2-inch model of our Gladiator. So different liners have a huge difference in it in the application. So where there's a polyurethane extruded through the weave, like the Conquest, other models do that as well, other manufacturers, or a nitrile extruded through the weave, and these fit in very tightly. And then you see you've got a little bit, I haven't lined the camera up there, but it's thin. So this type model does very well it's a combat style hose, but it does very well for the lower pressure, to the less wall pressure, and still so you don't have you have less nozzle reaction, but you don't have the nozzle whip and kinking. You can bring it back. So if you've got it out there in front of you, like some of the nozzle forward techniques, that you can bring it to a doorway to your left or right and not have to move your whole body. Where if you're up on the nozzle, you can't flow it as well.
Yeah.
So, and that's through our product innovations that we've really excelled and kind of changed. We've got some very exciting stuff come up.
And is this, Jay, is this a time to put this up here?
Yes. So this is just the basic graph of our Gladiator M, which is a new model that's coming out. It hadn't been released. We've still got it in testing in some cities, a couple of cities.
So you heard it here first, right? You heard it on the jump seat first. The new product coming out by Snaptite.
This is the first time this graph sheet has been put out. So y'all are the first. So
fantastic.
Woo!
Yeah,
high five, John.
So what's cool about it is that, you know, UL is coming out with testing, and it was supposed to have been out this year, but they had so many different variances of results that it was just all over the board. So they delayed it to 2021. But with that, we actually bought the same equipment they use so we could do our own testing and basically the test a product before we send it off and spend the money to have UL testing on it. But we can run it through different dynamics with air, with water, different pressures to see if that affects it. So we can do more entailed testing on that and create more data for us. So we have developed it's a Kevlar type thread that on the outer jacket with the same Gladiator liner. All right, and we stop it at 15 minutes because it's still not failed.
Wow.
With the part and the direct heat and the indirect heat testing. Now, most of our products do very well anyway. With even our rubber HFX is on conductive heat is like 9,000 seconds. I mean, 900 seconds. Excuse me, 900 seconds. Where like some of the other product manufacturers, there's like usually it's like around 6 to 8 seconds before they fail. So our products do very well already, but that's just some of the testing that we do just to make sure we're doing a safer product and a better product for the fire service. You know, and you know, there's a lot of interest on the cancer causing initiative. You know, cancer causing initiatives where the hydrocarbons are in the products. And if you think about it, if you've got a cloth jacket, it's just like your bunker gear. Stuff can terminate that fiber as well. So a lot of folks are actually now thinking about using a nitrile rubber hose that won't pick up the hydrocarbons, and it's easier to clean. So we actually label that as a green hose, so it's actually easier to clean. And our TPX is a triple poly, but it does well at 50 psi as well. So there's a whole.
You know, and I already learned something. I never thought of this, but you know, when we're packing up hose, especially when it's hot out, where's all that sitting? It's sitting right here. Where do we absorb so much of the carcinogens?
Yep, and typically at that point when you're doing overhaul and clean up the hose, you've already you're taking your jacket off, you're taking your hood off,
right,
and maybe just in a t-shirt. So that one level of protection is very minimal.
That's a great point.
You bring up a really, I mean, we've had some cancer prevention people on here. We've had some decon people in here, but that's an oversight that I can't think we've even touched on at this point, John. And so it's a very valid point, Jay, and I appreciate you bringing that up. And it's interesting that technology is out there, and I didn't even think about it going to nitrile. And so, you know, one of those things is, hey, you're obviously developing products in that space that perform similarly. Are there any other advantages to utilizing that nitrile style hose, or
the typical nitrile hose originally didn't have a lot of rib? You know, you'll see where it comes through the extruder, it'd have ribs on it. So we actually have changed the way we've done that in the past few years, is that our TPX has higher ribs and more ribs in it, so that it actually affects and helps the drag coefficient. That was the main thing. It was flat, like this extruded liner here. Our liners fit very tight, so it's flat all the way across. It's a little porous, but it's still flat. But now we put ribs in it. The older models didn't have that heavy ribbed edge to it, so that it only rides on those edges. So it again helps with the drag coefficient. So there's some technology that are in that, and then the triple poly, which is an extruded through the weave, and then it's actually double vulcanized, because then we reinsert a rubber liner into it. That's why it has a better backbone, but packs very well because it's double vulcanized, and it actually helps with the packing and doesn't have the memory as a true nitrile rubber would.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, and it's easy to clean. You know, a lot of departments nationally would just run a 100-foot section on their front bumper just for brush fires and dumpsters and car fires, just the nasty stuff, because it was so easy to clean. Well, why not use that? And you know, in for your attack lines, you could get different colors. You know.
And are you getting that? Are you getting that in the same NFPA performance that you were getting out of the other jacketed hose as well?
So it's the NFPA, as far as, let's see here, as far as the Tabor testing, it is very, very good. Let's see. It's like, so the minimum for NFPA for Tabor testing is 3,000 cycles. Our rubber product for HFX is 8,000, over 8,000. And then our Gladiator is 30,000. So it's really, and a lot of that is our coating on the double jacketed, the way we do our coating. So
wonderful.
To show that test video that we got on, just to kind of bring folks up on what that test is and what it involves. It's a real quick video.
Get that going here. All right.
John, I think we lost the audio here on that video.
Okay.
Whatever is in there.
Here. Let me give it one more little technical.
Great video for anybody to go back and look at as well. Just kind of shows the whole test process.
Give me just a split second.
I tell you what,
we can always link
the audio,
it.
Yeah, we'll link it anyhow. And Jay, if the audio doesn't work, maybe you can walk us through it as we're watching the visual from that perspective as well.
Can't do the background music.
No music. So you want it muted?
No.
Oh, I'll work on the music then in the background, and you just work on the.
Here it goes. Cross your fingers.
Snaptite hose tests its products to verify performance. A dry 3-foot section of hose is attached to a hydrostatic hand pump and a water supply. Once the hose is pressurized to 300 psi, following NFPA UL19 standards for conductive heat testing.
So this is a heated block.
The hot block is placed directly on its surface. The time to 20 psi pressure drop is recorded. 150 psi dynamic pressure is then applied, and leakage rate measured in gallons of water per minute. The same test run on competitive products reveals significant differences.
It's pretty.
Wow.
It's a lot of difference. And so this is set up there. There's the
a 10-foot sample is fixed in place below a burner and charged to a static pressure of 150 psi. Steady heat is applied until a 20 psi static pressure loss occurs. The time to failure is recorded from the calibrated stopwatch. The sample is charged at 150 psi dynamic pressure to determine the amount of leakage in GPMs. Results are compared to similar products produced by other manufacturers. Rigorous comparative testing gives firefighters proof positive of the superior performance of Snaptite hose.
So yeah, anyone can go back and look at that later. It shows the different tests that's coming for UL and how those are applied. And it's really, at the end of the day, is to make firefighters safer when they're in that environment. The hose is the life safety line. If you think about it, you got to have a nozzle on it. So a lot of our testing is done in the factory. We also do outside flows and demonstrations for departments. And basically, what we like to do, we have 5 regional sales managers nationally. We have additional one that handles the military. So we have a lot of industry professionals out there that's daily doing flows nationally. So what's kind of cool about that, we do a setup where we'll bring out the hose or bring out their hose and see where they're flowing at. And we use the Akron flow meter for that most times. And we'll put that in. What's great about that is that it will show us our current flow of GPMs, but a lot of departments are concerned about the amount of water that they use over the whole day, or if they're out there doing hydrant testing. We can actually show them through that meter what their total flow was for today of gallons per minute, recorded on training and whatnot, back to their public works department if they need to. So having those,
I'm seeing more and more of that request. There's no doubt about it.
Having those key tools is a value part, and if folks want, there it is, and it's a great product. It's basically, you don't have to push any buttons; just put your finger over it. So it's almost a touchless, and so it works very well. Very easy to put in line, and it doesn't matter where you put it at in line. GPMs is GPMs. If it's 50 foot before the nozzle or 250 foot.
Yeah.
Before the
Well,
nozzle.
and Jay, you probably remember the days of carrying that giant flow meter around, that huge case. Yes. You had to have wires hooked up, and right, you had to make sure you charge the batteries before. It's like, this thing is this big.
Yep, it's great. It's great.
And it's calibrated. That's the other thing. Your data is only as good as your instrumentation. And I hate to see it, but there's been too many departments I've gone to that have spent days and hours out there. And I ask them, is this calibrated? And they're like, oh yeah. And I say, well, when? They just, and you can tell you're not sure that it's in calibration, and that's unfortunate. So having to not have to worry about that is an advantage to have good data every time. Because a lot of people don't know it's using a mag meter, using electricity to measure flow instead of a spinning wheel that needs calibrated, right, to a magnet, to a motor to measure the frequency.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier.
One of those things too, it's actually highly accurate. It's actually more accurate than what you would find in a traditional paddle wheel design and things of that nature. But I don't want to spend the whole time on our flow meter, even though it rocks and it's a key piece of your puzzle when you go out and sell hose as well. But
it definitely is part of it, though. When folks are departments are looking at hose, we want to know what their target GPM is. And a lot of times what they think they're flowing currently is totally off because their pump panel gauges are not calibrated. They may have not checked their lines lately. So that's a good tool, and that's a good way we actually try to make their system work more proficient. You'll ask them and they'll say, well, yeah, I'm going to flow 150 gallons a minute, and then what they're actually flowing may be less than that. And that's a huge concern. You want to make sure that you are getting the GPMs that you think you're getting out of the nozzle. And we always verify it, especially if we're smoothbore. We'll go P-toe to line just to make sure the two they're right in line together. And then, you always want to establish that start point. And but it works very well. Flowing water is a passion of mine. I enjoy doing it, and getting departments the items that they need. I was in a larger city department this past week, and one of the issues we found was on their 2-inch line for high rise. It was an older style nozzle with a 1-inch orifice going through it, 1-inch shutoff.
The shutoff, yeah.
Versus 1 3/8 waterway. So they were wondering why they were having to pump it so hard and wouldn't get in the flow they thought they were. And
well, but I'm sure you probably saw stream impact too. You weren't probably getting the tight stream. You're probably getting stream breakup.
I actually heard the stream, and I was like, something's not right. Just, and that's where our experience of our regional sales managers come in. They can identify these things. It's not always that we get to sell hose. Sometimes we sell a nozzle or two, so, but it is a system. That's what's important, is that the pump and the hose, nozzle, and the guys on there, you want to make it manageable is it a small department where they're doing one, maybe two guys on the line, initially, so you want to make it something that is easy to use and proficient for them.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, I know it's been the time flies when we're having fun, and we're already hitting our limits here. But I think you've provided a lot of good info here, and obviously at the bottom right now, you guys can see how to get a hold of us. Snaptitehose.com /contact us. There's a hyphen in there. If you guys don't catch that, make sure you put the hyphen in, and you guys can find out more. And I think you said there's five folks around the country plus a government focused individual.
And
John, do we have that? And Jay, of course.
And Jay.
John, do we have that territory map we can actually share as well, and maybe give people, if you're located around the country and you aren't sure maybe who your rep is for Snaptite hose, you want to reach out to them. And by the way, Snaptite is not affiliated with IDEX Fire and Safety, but we are great partners in that. We rely on them to get water from the hydrant to our pumps, and then from our pumps back to our nozzles and monitors and things. So
absolutely.
Jay, thank you so much for coming on today. And John's pulling that up. Any last minute comments or things you want to add?
Just give us a call. You can check it out on our website. Give me a call. I'm on Facebook. We'd love to come flow water at your department, and we'll bring some Akron nozzles. We'll be there.
Fantastic. I apologize. I don't have a map, but we do have the link here to get you in touch with your regional representative. So without further ado, Jay, thanks again for joining the jump seat, and hope to have you back again someday.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Take care.
Hey, Jay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So,
all right, I'll leave that up for just a minute there, that link, for anybody catching it here at the end. So we've got another one in the books here, and another one scheduled for next week that's going to be of interest, Dave. We thought of a pretty good title as well, and that title is we're going to talk pump modules. When I say pump modules, you and I know, and a lot of other people know exactly what we're talking about. But me, spending time as a firefighter, and you before you worked here, right? You may not know what a pump module really is and why it's important. So next week's going to be titled "What the Hell is a Pump Module?" because we're going to be talking Hale pump modules. We're going to hear from one of their experts and really understand the why behind it. We don't just make it for fun. There's a reason we do this. There are benefits at the end user department level, and there's also benefits for the builders who build these trucks. So I look forward to learning about pump modules next week, and we'll have some great info for everybody.
Well, hopefully you guys can all join us again next week, or catch us on one of our many different social media outlets. I want to say thanks again to Jay Hillis for joining us today, National Sales Manager with Snaptite Hose. Another great episode and very informative. We would also love it, and like we loved it when Dave Woodward commented here today. Thanks for watching us again, Dave. Or even just want to say hey in the middle of the show. We can see it. So comment away. And we do follow up on them after the live episode is shown. But please, we'd ask that you like and share us on any of our social media pages through IDEX Fire and Safety, as well as YouTube and the other avenues as well. So thank you all very much for joining us. We hope to see you again here next week on the Jump Seat, 3 o'clock Friday.
See you there.